The number of knights from the common people is increasing, and the authority of ordinary knights decreases. However, the empire, as a rule, prefers talented people. If someone is able to reach a high position in another state, it is likely that here he will be an ordinary knight. Therefore, do not judge people by external signs. But this is not my business. Suddenly, the princess ran to the thoughtful girl. Vanessa asked, "Princess Seraphine, did something happen?" She answered nervously. "In general, I just signed a prenuptial agreement." They turned their heads. In the direction of the princess waved a well-fed soldier. "Having reduced my standards, I managed to find a suitable person. If not for this situation, then she would have gone for the status suitable for her. She is still very young. How much is she? 17? It's good that her newly made groom at least looks young," Serafina said. "Do you know that an hour has left until the end of the celebration?" Vanessa thought. "Now is not the time to worry about others. I know. And I remember that if I do not find a partner, I will lose my status," the worried princess asked. "Are you waiting for His Highness?" The Duke's daughter cast a cursory glance towards the guests. Maybe I was too self-confident? That it was a way out. Marry him. Then he will save me from nightmares. Plus, I would retain the status. Where did I get this confidence at all? He is generally the devil. Nevertheless, I think it would be nice to be a little to be safe. One of the knights sitting on the sofa felt a look on himself. On the other half of the hall, Vanessa carefully watched them. "X! Does that girl take a chance at you by chance?" He did not understand. The colleague pointed to her. "The one who danced with His Highness." The X tried to make out where his interlocutor pointed. Of all the remaining idle knights, he is more or less nothing. The dumbfounded guy blushed instantly and immediately embarrassed. He thought, "How much time has passed? How did the girl flirted with me? There is little time left. Will the Duke appear, or will you have to approach the knight?" Vanessa waited dutifully, but less than 5 minutes remained. Not daring to wait anymore, she headed towards the Exie. Holding the dress, the girl confidently went to her goal. The knight immediately began to encourage Exie. "She goes to you!" However, unexpectedly for everyone, the door of the hall opened. The voice announced, "His Highness Duke Alberic, Isak!" The man with his retinue slowly entered the hall, looking around the guests. The delighted Vanessa, looking at him, thought, "Came." She carefully looked in his face, waiting for a response. With his severe gaze, he also stopped on the girl's face. Vanessa thought, "We must smile, as if nothing was unprecedented, as if I did not expect him at all." He went to her. Suddenly, the first thing he did was touched her cheeks. Then he smiled sweetly at her, looking straight into his eyes. She was shocked. "Had to wait long?" This was the first that he asked. "Still a couple of minutes, and I would lose my status. Don't you like dramas? For example, about the salvation of the princess from danger," she thought. He said beautifully, "But because of whom I am now in this danger. In addition to you, not a single knight came up to me. It seems that none of the people felt your charm. They are just afraid that they will not be able to cope with me." The Duke asked, "What did you imagine about yourself?" She answered, "How what? Don't you understand what I mean?" She pressed his hand to her cheek. He watched the actions and behavior of Vanessa with surprise. Suddenly, he moved away from the girl, which puzzled her. The devil looked around all the guests, after which he said, "Okay." The next second, the Duke called one of the servants. The guy immediately kneeling, asking, "Caused?" The distortion ordered, "Suppose the extension of the celebration for a day. Are you going to come at the very end of the evening again? Well, what are you? It would be too predictable for you. Instead, I want to pick you up somewhere." Vanessa was surprised. A rich carriage of the wheel on the road, warmed by the sun. Vanessa rode with the servant of the Duke, recalling their dialogue. "Tomorrow I will send people for you. I want to talk elsewhere. After all, here, you yourself understand. There are a lot of extra eyes with a slice. I wonder where they take me. This question does not give rest." Vanessa glanced briefly out the window. Thoughts in her head were confused. Suddenly the carriage stopped. The coachman announced, "We are in place." The girl took an uncertain step from the carriage, trying to get together with her thoughts. She immediately froze, seeing who came to meet her. The Duke in a white suit stood in front of the door, having handed his hand. Smiling at Vanessa, he said in a sweet voice, "Finally." The embarrassed girl blushed. Isak asked, Are you going to go down? Vanessa, having come to life, answered, I'm going down, and held out his hand. Having made a curtsy, she said, Greetings, Your Highness. I did not think that he would personally meet me. What is he planning? Turning, he turned to the Duke's daughter. Went. Without letting go of his hand, she asked with interest. Where? However, he did not answer and silently led her somewhere. Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes wide in surprise. This is the temple of the imperial family. The man was waiting for her on the steps. He looked at the frozen Vanessa, asking, Is something wrong? She frowned and looked at the devil with distrust. He only smiled maliciously, looking at the thoughtful appearance of Vanessa. Suddenly, the devil himself came to the temple. He likes to blaspheme like no one else. She could not even imagine why they came here. The Duke gave a voice again. I see you have a lot of questions. But before that, tell you something interesting? Almost all people seeing me are looking for God. They think that He will save them. Each time at the sight of this, it becomes very funny to me. He opened the door, letting the blonde inside, allowing her to look around. Entering the temple, the girl immediately froze, examining the room. It was a huge hall with benches and a huge statue on the pedestal. Looking at the statue, the Duke continued, God is my second half. To be more precisely expressed, that the second half is not quite, and the twin brother, with whom we are in a bad relationship. We are like two sides of the coin, light and darkness that each other needs. What should be his darkness to balance with the divine light? What reaction will be people if they find out something? The light that they rely on is absolutely indifferent to their problems. Then Isak went to the table on which the books lay. Opening one of them, he ran a hand over the pages. This book is very interesting. He took her in his hands, showing Vanessa. Not particularly pleased with what was happening, the girl answered. What are you? Then he called the name. Scarlet Holy. Vanessa unconsciously squeezed the dress. The devil read. Having killed the whole retinue and destroying the temple, she committed suicide. The Scarlet Holy was located from the Most High itself, and was the most noble among saints. However, she had the most terrible end. After the death of the Archbishop and most saints, the state of Isan ceased to exist. The following year, taking advantage of the fall of Isan, people unleashed the war. It lasted 10 years and ended at the same time with the coronation of Penelope I. Later, this tragedy was called the War of the Scarlet Holy, as a result of which about 120,000 people died. Then the Duke closed the book, watching Vanessa's reaction. Taking her by the shoulders, he asked, How sinful your soul is. I heard that the devils feed on negative energy. Misfortunes too? Certainly. Are you unfortunate now? For him it was delighted. Vanessa turned around with a sharp movement, grabbing the man by the hand. You yourself know everything very well. Tears came from her eyes. Looking at him, she thought, he is something more than the usual evil. Once he called God a light, and himself by darkness. He grabbed her by the waist. This means that he is not an ordinary devil, but the embodiment of evil. He is the one who runs all evil. Have I found myself a new God? It depends on how it hurts you now. I want to continue to torment you. You are more than just interesting. After all, you are a creature whose soul is immortal. You probably think that all this is happening because God was angry with you. But I think that the opposite is true. God loves you very much. In your face, I see that you are extremely unpleasant for you now. I do not need this vile love. It hurts me from her. Your Highness, I want to ask you about one service. Different devil, I beg you, conclude a contract with me. I will give you everything you want. If necessary, take my soul. Taking her at the cheeks, he immediately asked her to shut up. Vanessa did not retreat. Stop playing with me. I'm extremely serious now. Why are you stopping me? Do you think you will fall in love with me? She answered confidently. I'm no longer a little stupid girl. I know that you are already tired of human love. So now you are experiencing me. I can swear that I will never love you under any conditions. Therefore, I ask you, save me from torment that do not give me peace. God was my only hope, but my faith was trampled, and I began to live a new life again, like a toy. I thought that I could never tell anyone. What despair I felt at that time of my life. From this moment, I will stop clinging to faith in God. In all ways, I will try to get out of this damned endless life. I told the Duke that I would not love him, but that did not mean that he did not attract me. However, I can never fall in love with him. Otherwise, I will open a hole for myself. The devil smiled playfully and ominously. Very interesting. Hanging over the girl, he said, I accept your proposal. Having put Vanessa on the sofa, he took out a decorated knife from his bosom. Pulling him out of the scabbard, he spoke. My real name, Velzevul. Tell me what you want. She watched his behavior in shock. Vanessa blushed and frowned, thinking again. Then she stated, I wish to get rid of my nightmares. The devil nodded and answered, I understood you and see no reason to refuse. Then he took her hand, preparing to make a light incision. Knowing what will happen now, Vanessa was still worried. Taking the knife to the forearm, the whale swell abruptly pulled the blade. What is he doing? He made an incision, but instead of pain, for some reason is very burning. Then he hangs over the girl, stroking her cheek and speaking. Tolerate. I'll finish soon. His whole appearance showed all the seriousness of the procedure. The man dipped his finger in the girl's blood and began to approach her face. Then he began to draw signs on her face. What is he doing? Does he write with my blood? Part of the face he concerns is very burning. I can't move! However, the devil was adamant. Then, holding Vanessa by his head, he looked into her eyes. On her face, as if bloody signs had been burned with a stigma. Smiling, the man gave his voice. Well done, you have lost. The signs disappeared from the face. She cried, thinking, It turns out that the contract is concluded? Rising from the sofa, the Duke again gave a voice. As for my diet, how about doing this about once a month? Not as often as I thought. Vanessa answered, Agreed. Isak said, Do not do such a face. I will take care of your remaining nightmares. Place a cut. When did it manage to change like that? Now it is definitely felt that the contract with the devil is concluded. Suddenly, the man again touched the girl's cheek. With such a cute face, I think everyone will believe that I fell in love with you. Already anticipating human conversations that the Duke fell in love. Yes. And to the girl from the kingdom, captured by him. Suddenly, from behind the bosom, the devil took out a small bottle. With a quiet cotton, he opened the lid, from which a pleasant aroma was heard. Then he began to strangle her cologne, smiling smugly. The surprised Vanessa asked, Devils use spirits? I use. Well, or I just imitate the aristocrats' guys. Does it look strange? The girl answered, Not really. This image suits you, the devil said. That's glorious. Then now. He pushed the girl on the sofa. Hanging over her again, the Duke said, Let's rehearse. In order for people we look more natural. Does he talk about the acting now? Or I don't understand something. But in one of my past lives I was an actress. Your Highness, do not worry about me. I am already in the mode of the lady in love with you. The devil was surprised. Suddenly, he grabbed her hand and pressed her to the sofa. The girl did not expect this from a man. But someone flew into the room. The dumbfounded Erkin announced loudly, Your Highness, urgent news! After which there was a pause when he saw the Duke on the girl. The knight was immediately thrown into sweat, and then into tears. I will come later, the Duke answered. No, stay, you came very on time. I need to declare something. He stroked Vanessa on the head. At this place, I officially declare that I want to marry you. Will you become my duchess? The girl was shocked. The knights standing in the yard were ordered. They come out! The Duke came out of the temple, leading the hand of the future duchess. The soldiers immediately sat on his knee in front of him, welcoming. I need to tell you all, I'm going to marry Vanessa. From this moment, contact her as the duchess should be treated. Did everyone hear me? A unanimous scream was heard, so for sure. Suddenly, the girl noticed the displeased glances of the knights. I already feel condemning views on myself. Not surprising. Nevertheless, I am a girl from the amazed state, and I am married to the commander-in-chief. From her thoughts, the Duke's voice pulled out. Vanessa, how about going with me in the same carriage? I do not want to part with you for a second. His game was amazing. The soldiers silently and condemningly watched the newly made couple. He seems to pour oil into the fire. I think I should play along with him? Okay, Your Highness. I also really wanted to go with you. The harnessed carriage, surrounded by horse knights, headed back. While they were on the road, the man read some document. Unconsciously, Vanessa began to carefully examine Isak. What are you looking at me like that? Is it really scared? No, I just first signed a contract with the devil. The man laughed slightly, answering, So is it. It turns out that the devil can also laugh innocently. Although early, he introduced me into a stupor with his statement about marriage. Just took it and made an offer in front of the knight. Did he mean this, talking about the game of lovers? He asked. Will you reciprocate? She answered. I agree. I wanted to give you a ring, but I did not have time to prepare it. And there is also something that no one knows about two of us, Isak said. But so other men will not find out that you belong to me. Does he still play? Or does it on purpose, awakening feelings in me? To be honest, I did not think that you would make me an offer. I was sure that I, like others, had a wedding under the contract. Why should my wife participate in such events? By the surprise of the girl, the devil rose from his seat. Then he quickly sat down to Vanessa, hugging her by the shoulders. By the way, for you, you need to allocate a new room. You will be allocated in the Imperial Palace, and there we will hold our unforgettable wedding ceremony. Wedding ceremonies in the Imperial Palace are held only by the Emperor's family. Of course, the Duke is the uncle of the Crown Prince and belongs to such a family. But to hold a wedding without notifying the Crown Prince and Princess, it is contrary to all the rules. Of course, he loves to make a bustle, but it seems to me that he does this in order to get closer to the throne. The conquest of the throne and the contract with me is entertainment for him. I will give you the most luxurious room from free in the palace. Your Highness, thank you for your sincere care. The man answered, It is not necessary to speak so formally to me. Looking at the girl, he realized that something was worried about her. The devil decided to ask her, Is this your first marriage? Confused, Vanessa squeezed her dress and answered awkwardly, Number. Exactly. After all, having lived so many lives, you had at least one husband. I thought that you can have a bite during our first wedding night. Doesn't prepare for a wedding in the palace take at least a week? Yes. Will it really be painful for you to wait only a week? Vanessa looked at the devil with a proper, not understanding expectation. Turning away, she answered indifferently, No, I'll wait. Painfully still, softly said, To be honest, this week will look like torture. The man, as if by chance, lifted the hem of her dress. The reddened Vanessa turned her head towards the devil. I missed your sweet and displeased expression on your face. Stroking her head, he said, Well done. Be patient a little more. Vanessa looked into the Duke's eyes in shock, without keeping up with his thoughts. Will you treat me like that, as a child? And what, don't like it? He liked to make fun of her. It seems, or is he overdoing? Number apparently he is. Closer to sunset, they slowly drove up to the Imperial Palace. Your Highness, thank you very much for led me. Tomorrow, a carriage will go after you to take it to the palace. Next time, we will meet at our wedding. Until that moment, I remember you sweet dreams. He smiled. Vanessa drew attention to his last words. She watched how the Duke and his retinue were left on horseback. In the palace, the Empress asked the servants, Well, who will become a new Duchess? They say that she will be a girl from the fallen Victoria, who danced with His Highness. They say that he fell in love with her from the first disabilities and is very valuable. The Empress sighed. I will never allow this to happen. Then she turned to the maid. Call to me vividly to me. In the middle of the forest, there was a heavy and displeased sigh. Somehow moving his legs, a female voice said. It seems that I was rocking. Ravia grabbed her head, screaming, What is wrong with this damn portal? So where am I? Really lost? The demon was nervous. Damn it, everything does not look like it was drawn on the map. Why did I end up in some village? And where am I now? You can take off, but there will be many witnesses, and I am too lazy to kill them. She heard a whisper. Traitor! How could he do so to me? The crying lonely girl stood barefoot at the cliff. Wow, what an interesting picture! The demon shone in a second. Suddenly, the girl turned her head and noticed that they were watching her. Ravia squatted and silently watched the actions of a stranger. The dumbfounded girl was frightened and fell, asking, Who are you? Who am I? Perhaps I am the one who can save you? Not funny. No one can fulfill what I want. Actually, demons can be much more than ordinary people. With a trembling voice, the girl asked, Demon? If you really are a demon, can you take revenge for me? Kill, ruin the pieces that betrayed me and his new woman. Love problem? You turn to exactly. Okay, I will do it, but you have to die. Then I will avenge you. If we agreed, quickly continue what you did. Fine, thank you. The girl in thanks fell to her knees. She sobbed again, dyeing the land last with tears. A few seconds later, only shoes remained from the girl. Approaching the cliff, Ravia threw off shoes not belonging to anyone. People so easily believe strangers. We assume that she was lucky. After all, of all the demons, I am the most kind. Somewhere in the distance, purple light shone, illuminating the sky. Blood flowed throughout the body of a girl from fresh wounds. The same peasant woman who rushed from the cliff went with a light gait. Opening her eyes, she smiled. Her pupils became red. She left the village in which her husband betrayed her. The next day, almost every girl congratulated Vanessa in the palace. I heard you marry the Duke? How I envy you! Vanessa answered the same way. Thank you all very much. The servant and the maid, standing nearby, twisted their faces. And what did he find in her? She was just lucky with her husband? He noticed her because she was strange. Probably, in Victoria, everyone is happy that she will become a new duchess. You don't worry so much, Vanessa answered. I'm fine, don't worry about me. I understand why they condemn me like that. Despite the fact that we are all from one place, now the attitude towards me and to them has become completely different. When the sunset began to advance, time was approaching dinner. Serafina said, I will not say that I am not at all worried about you, but I believe that you made the right decision. The girl warmed her hands at the plate. I hope that you will live together happily and happily. Vanessa stopped her. A person can comfortably comfort, but sincerely congratulate is very difficult. Serafina was older than I thought. When it ends, probably we will not see each other anymore. After all, we are not so close. She took the girl's hand. She looked at Vanessa in surprise, waiting for an explanation. Princess, you are too kind. Now I began to worry about you. Try to be dearer. And why do you say as if we will never see each other? Since we will now live in an empire, it is worth having at least one friend, with which it will be possible to conduct boring everyday life. I hope we will become friends, Serafina answered. I hope so too, Vanessa said. Thank you. In this life, I was not going to make friends. But there is something that cannot be received. The next day, Vanessa heard, Welcome to the Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace of Alberic, the very first empire on the mainland. This place has a long history. The future Duchess arrived here. I could not imagine that I would have a wedding here. This is not the first time in this palace. I constantly walked along these corridors, and I even know how many windows are here. She remembered how the maid worked here. In my first life, I was a servant in this palace. This is a portrait of His Majesty, the third emperor. He was an outstanding monarch. He entered into cooperation with magicians and built them towers, which is why his strength strengthened. Everyone in the empire must know about this person. I know him well. I know what others do not know. He had an explosive character. He resorted to violence against his family. When he saw the spying Vanessa, he screamed, You saw everything! The girl immediately struck from painful memories. The maids began to ask, Madam, will you be unhealthy? No, everything is in order. I just thought about mine. Continue. The answer was heard. Fine. Go to the next portrait. Vanessa stopped opposite the portrait of a young guy. The girl dumbfounded in a dumbfounded picture, waiting for the story. The maid said, This is a great monarch who brought peace and prosperity to the empire. The 15th Emperor Kalkas. The fair-haired guy smiled. To universal surprise, Vanessa smiled, saying, How nice! The maid asked herself in bewilderment, What about her? The puzzled Duke, reading the book, decided to ask, Where is Vanessa? Erkin answered right away. She arrived safely at the palace. It is clear what she is doing now? Erkin thought. It seems that she is not indifferent to him. Today, she had a tour of the palace. The only thing was a strange moment. They said that she looked at the portrait of the 15th emperor for several minutes. The peaceful sky spread over the imperial palace. The crowd of maids whispered, These are heavenly knights, and these two are not those who always go with His Highness? Nest put his hand on his head, saying, Why did they send me here? There is also a Bahadur. Erkin silently listened to his complaints. Crown, Your Highness? They bowed, standing in front of the Duke. Having read and closed the book, the man looked around his guards. From now on, you will accompany Vanessa. Erkin, you too. The dumbfounded knights in unison were asked, not believing their ears. What? I don't like something. The Duke viciously glanced at the wards. Frightened, the guards looked at each other, answering, We will take care of her. How did it happen that we were here? The thoughtful guys heard a barely audible clatter behind. The guys turned to the sudden voice of the future Duchess. I heard that His Highness directed you to me. We arrived on the orders of His Highness to accompany you. They introduced themselves. My name is Erkin, and I have no me. Vanessa began to appear uncertainly, but hesitated. Nest shouted the girl with his gaze, from which he became embarrassed. For a few seconds they looked at each other inquiringly. My name is Vanessa Blake. I hope we will get along. You will soon become a duchess, so you can contact us informally. But yet I have not become her, Erkin thought. Marvelous. She is careful. How will it be more convenient for you? If you need anything, contact us. Agree. Vanessa headed to the palace with the maids. Nest looked after her, thinking, what was it? She looked in my eyes. After some time, the girl was sitting in her new room. She carefully read the book, sitting at the desk. However, to focus on reading, she did not succeed. Before her eyes, the face of Neat surfaced, looking intently into her eyes. He does not look like a person from a noble family. Seeing him for the first time, I did not recognize him. But today I remembered. I intersected with him in Victoria. Then some guy ran to the guard screaming, "Help!" Little Vanessa noticed how the guard answered the boy. Mister, if you behave like that, I have to inform the count. The guy did not stop. Then save at least my sister. She has ribs broken, she cannot breathe and bleeds. But the father still does not allow her to treat it. I beg, help, the guard said. Sorry, I can't help you with anything. Then he retired. Did they beat them like that at home? Everyone just stood and did not interfere. I still can't forget his disappointed face. The girl decided to leave the carriage, heading for him. She handed a bag of money to the needling guy. In the lane across the road is a doctor. He has one blue eye. You will not be mistaken. Give him money and he will cure you without any questions. Now is not the time to pull. Take money and run faster. The boy burst into tears, then grabbed a bag from his hands and ran where they said, This is the very doctor who wrote me a recipe for sleeping pills. A few days after the meeting, I found out that the count's daughter was dead. Then, after a couple of days, I heard that there was a fire in the count's house, in which the count with the countess and their son, whom I met, died. I thought he died in that fire, and he serves here, but he lives like a different person. He is incredible. The night came. Today, Vanessa will spend the night with his room for the first time. She extended her hand to turn off the last lamp. However, because of a rich day, the girl could not close her eyes. I missed your displeased expression on your face. I wish you sweet dreams. He has unusual hobbies, however. Rather, a wedding night would have come, which will finally save me from these stupid nightmares. At the same time, the Duke stood in his office and looked out the window. Smiling, he looked at the stars, thinking about something of his own. The next day, the ladies gossiped. Have everyone heard about that hearing? I know only a rumor about Count Demian and the future Duchess. So you have already heard. What are you all talking about? They say that Count Demian, being a groom, changed the bride with a commoner. More shocking that, having learned about this, the daughter of the Duke changed. She ordered Count Demian to kill this commoner. The daughter of the Duke reported a murder in a security detachment. Wandering, the Count was killed by the father of that very commoner. The girls immediately made it. Father, what a horror! I heard that she was weak and very calm. I think nothing will happen else, for she is a daughter from a wealthy family. And what kind of rumor about the Duchess? They answered her. They say that the Duke fell in love in the aristocrat, who arrived from Victoria captured by him. Do you think she can survive after the first wedding night? If she manages to survive, then she clearly has abilities, which surpass the forces of His Highness. What is unlikely? In the morning, Vanessa heard. This is the treasure of the Kingdom of Victoria, sent by the king, as a wedding gift for the daughter of the Duke Black. Stunned by such a treasure, the girl asked, Is it to me? Of course for you. You are hope for the whole of Victoria. The soldier said, Please accept it, she thought. Doubtful gift. After all, I become a duchess not for someone, but for myself. For the sake of this neck, they spent on the road. The kingdom has not yet recovered after the war, the guard said. By the way, a letter from the Duke Black has come for you. Vanessa took a letter. Sister, it's me, Sakar. I am writing to you on behalf of our family. I was very longing for you after your departure. Dear sister, you will soon become a duchess. Many have hopes for you, but know that we are enough that you are alive and healthy. I know that you are very wise, And even far from home, you can take care of yourself. We will wait for the day when our family reunites again. As it turned out, I became very attached to the family. This letter is like a warm breeze that warms my heart. Then Vanessa said, "Thank you for delivering a letter. For the sake of this gift, you made a long and difficult path. We are immensely thank you for personally met us." Time flew by unnoticed, and only one day remained before the wedding. Sitting under a stone veranda, the maid poured tea. The girl took the cup by the handle. Without thinking about anything, "This relaxing tea will help you reduce pre-wedding excitement." Vanessa thanked the maids. They bowed and moved away. Taking a cup to her mouth, the girl stopped, suspecting something was amiss. Looking at the liquid, she immediately thought, "This smell." Without drinking, she returned the cup back on the saucer. Then she called the maid. She answered nervously, "I apologize, but I don't want tea. Could you remove from the table? And yet, I would like to take a walk. Be near." The maid trembled. Vanessa headed towards a small pond. A week has passed since I arrived at the palace. In all the turmoil, I did not remember the names of the maids who are with me. But this does not mean at all that I will not notice the new maid. The maid, who gave me tea every day, was changed the day before the wedding. Today, this maid has prepared tea for me, and he smelled of fargaro leaves. In a small amount, it causes only hallucinations. But if you brew the leaves in large quantities, this will lead to death. This is a very good way to fake sudden death. Someone wanted to kill me. I assumed that this would happen. Therefore, it does not matter who is behind this and what is the motive. After all, only one day remained before the wedding. It remains to survive for a day. At this time, work to prepare for the wedding was in full swing in the palace. Vanessa dressed up in her room and put herself in order. The maid said, "Now I will apply you to make a makeup." "What shade of lipstick do you prefer?" Vanessa answered. "Bloody." The maid was surprised. "An unusual color description. I understood you." After that, the girl began to paint and powder, leading the marathon. "You are so beautiful. Seeing you, the Duke will fall in love with you again." The dressed-up Vanessa stood in a wedding dress and flowers in her hands. The release of the bride. The wedding begins. The girl was ready. The door opened while Vanessa thought, "Soon I will become the wife of the devil." The elegant Duke stood under the arch, next to the priest. Finally, today the first wedding night will come, which I was waiting for. Dear guests, I ask you to accompany the groom and the bride with violent applause. The devil turned slightly, noticing something unusual. One person volunteered to lead the bride to the altar. Nest, in a solemn suit, led Vanessa with a proud gait. The girl thoughtfully looked around the hall filled with guests. Before the wedding, there was a rehearsal of my exit and how the guests will behave. But I do not understand why it was necessary. This is not my first wedding, and this is not the first time I am in the center of universal attention. However, for some reason, I am worried about as never before. Because my groom is the devil. This was really the first time. Vanessa met with Isak eyes in frozen place. The Duke smiled at evaluating the beauty and pleasant aroma of the bride. The girl was a little embarrassing and uncomfortable, but she held on. The maid said that he would definitely fall in love with me again. But why then is my heart beat so much? Looking into her eyes, the devil asked a question. "Are you ready?" Responding to him by visual contact, Vanessa said, "Yes. The only thing you need to remember is this marriage is just a formality, which will bring benefit to both of us. I can't fall in love. From this moment, the wedding ceremony begins. 3 people will perform as witnesses. His Majesty Emperor. I, the Archbishop of Penelope, is the first, as well as the godfather of the Duke, Prince Haywood. For forced reasons, the Emperor could not be present. Therefore, instead of him, a witness will be a crown prince. I think that there can be no more blasphemous marriage. The crown prince seems to be even younger than my brother Sakar. Meanwhile, the priest cleared his throat to start the ceremony. The groom, Camille Isak, whether you swear to love, respect, and take care of the bride. Vanessa Blake until the end of his days? The Duke answered, I swear. The bride, Vanessa Blake, whether you swear to love, respect, and take care of the bridegroom Camille Isaka until the end of his days? Having nervous, Vanessa answered uncertainly, I swear. On this pronunciation of the oaths of the newlyweds came to an end. I asked the bride and groom, as a sign of love, to exchange rings. God bless your Almighty. The priest held out his hand. The girl looked at the man who was trying to choose words. Vanessa, thank you for becoming my bride. He smiled. Then the devil gently touched his cheek of his newly made wife. The provocation must be answered the same. She took a deep breath. "Thank you for becoming my groom, your highness." The duke was not surprisingly surprised at such an answer from the girl. "I look forward to tonight, my dear bride." After that, the newlyweds kissed. The hall exploded with applause. However, one of the guests did not share joy with the rest. In a fit of inner anger, the girl broke her fan. At the end of the ceremony, all the guests headed out into the street. The tables were bursting with food, while magicians conjured the canopies. All guests were delighted with presentation and feasts. Everyone approached the couple. "Accept my congratulations, the Duke and the Duchess. You look so beautiful together. I wish you to live a long and happy life." However, Vanessa looked at her husband thinking, "What is he plotting? I know that that kiss was just part of the ceremony, but I could not imagine that he would really do it. Is this the same necklace from Victoria, brought as a wedding gift? There are no such precious stones in the Empire. They shimmer so beautifully. Indeed, after all, Victoria is famous for the mines on the mainland. This necklace is ideal for you, Duchess. And of course, is it very expensive?" All the girls sincerely rejoiced at the Duchess, smiling, aristocrat from the captured state in the center of noble ladies. But despite this, I do not feel condemnation, but rather goodwill. I thought that among them was a person who wants to eliminate me. I will communicate at ease and openly, without any hostility. The girls surrounded her continued to congratulate Vanessa. The Duke, surrounded by men, periodically glanced towards his wife. Finally, I can calmly sit. For a long time I have not talked with so many people. Suddenly, the Duchess heard a rustle, not far from herself. She got up and went to the column, thinking, "Is there someone there?" Vanessa was very surprised to find a lonely figure behind the column. Below, holding his knees, a crown prince sat, all frightened. Going closer to him, she noticed. "Is he crying? Okay. I think it will be better if I leave it here." Going back, the girl accidentally stepped onto the branch and she cracked. The boy immediately raised his head and looked at Vanessa. The Duchess awkwardly looked into his eyes, not knowing what to say. The surprised boy wiped his eyes and asked, "Duchess, sorry that so suddenly prevented you, the Crown Prince." "No, it's okay. No need to apologize." He bowed. It turned out that he was not crying. "Then why does he tremble?" he said awkwardly. "Once again, I sincerely congratulate you on marriage," Vanessa asked. "Crown Prince, are you accidental?" she said. "I'll go call people." The boy immediately grabbed her sleeve. The Duchess looked in surprise at the frightened guy. "The fact is that since birth I am very weak. Therefore, I had to sit down to relax a bit. Do not worry about me. After some time, it will become easier for me." Vanessa tried to say something, but the prince stopped her. "Crown Prince, could you show me your palms?" The hunch was confirmed. "Prince, do you have a lack of mana?" "How did you know?" "I read that this disease is widespread." "It was inherited to you. I am well aware of this disease. After all, a very dear person was sick to me with the same disease. I don't even remember in which country and what kind of life it was. I was a princess. The princess's childhood was the happiest among all my lives. But everything changed when the 14th emperor made me an offer. And from that moment on, the life of the princess has become a continuous misfortune. At that time, the emperor was an avid womanizer who had several wives. Why did he need a 6-year-old princess who had no power? But I could not refuse, since our state was their colony. I had no choice but to become his concubine. However, the emperor's impulsive interest in me quickly disappeared, and together with his son, Calchas was thrown in the most distant part of the palace. The young fair-haired boy heard him called out. He immediately ran to his mother, smiling and hugging her. The woman gently put her hands on his shoulders, looking into her eyes. Then she laid her hand on his head and began to pour mana. What the woman asked for half. "How are you? Have you got better?" Smiling, the boy answered, "Yes, now it does not hurt at all." Calchas had a very rare disease, a lack of mana. All people in the body produce mana microparticles. These particles act as immunity from magical influence. If the body cannot produce mana from birth, then you need to contact the wizard and take 8 mana cycles. Fortunately, in a past life, I was a witch. Therefore, it was easy for me to look after my son. Starting from the wedding, I had very difficult times, but thanks to you, my life has a meaning. If only you grew up healthy. However, such tests, on the contrary, make a person stronger. Calchas was the most capable among all the princes, but there were those who envied him. In order to stop this, I needed the advancedness of the emperor. Therefore, I decided to become my favorite concubine in the palace. Thus, I protected my son from oppression. Time went on as usual. Calchas ascended the throne. But the imperial family immediately began to build intrigues. I got into their network and died. In the last minutes of my life, I thought about my son, which eventually was left completely alone after my death. This is a great monarch who brought peace and prosperity to the empire, when his mother was poisoned, and the circumstances of death were disclosed. The imperial family was repressed. After that, he pursued a policy of compassion. Having committed many good deeds, he died at the age of 54 years. Even after death, they continued to recall him as a merciful monarch. Vanessa said aloud, "I am proud of you, my dear Calchas." From her memories, the prince's worried voice pulled her out. "Duchess, are you okay?" The girl immediately came to her senses. She answered, "Yes, I just thought a little." "Duchess, you somehow look unhealthy." He also worried. "After that," he added, "and it seems to you sad?" Without hesitation, she answered, "Everything is fine with me, the crown prince. This child looks weak, but he has a very kind heart, and he is stronger than it seems. What is it still, dear?" Stroking him on the head, the girl asked, "How do you feel now?" The guy was surprised, thought. Suddenly, all the pain disappeared. What happened? For that, he wanted to ask, "Duchess," but he was immediately called out by a familiar voice behind the girl. The empress asked with an arrogant look, "What are you doing there?" The boy cried out. "Mother," Vanessa thought, "is this an empress? What are you standing? Spend the crown prince." The maid answered, "Yes, mistress," and ran to the guy. Vanessa thought about it. "I know almost nothing about the current empress. Greetings, Her Majesty, the imperator." The girl bowed. Then I thought, first you need to be polite and quickly leave. The new bride of the duke, or should I contact you a duchess? I think it will not have to be yet. You still die after the first wedding night. At the same time, the duke sat on the sofa surrounded by guests. Many still approached him and gave gifts. However, he was not interested in this. Suddenly, he felt something. Isak looked at Erkin and Nesta, carelessly chatting. Then he called Badur, who appeared that hour. "Now urgently find Vanessa and bring her to me. I heard that you are from an outstanding family in Victoria, and, according to rumors, you have some of your manners. But even if so, do you seriously think that the Duke fell in love? And you think that now you can do everything?" The Empress switched to a scream. "What is the reason that she is so openly showing her hostility towards me? I don't know what the reason is, so I will just be sweet with her." Choosing words, Vanessa began to answer. "No, not at all." Suddenly, there was a loud voice behind. "What are you doing there?" The Duke went in their direction with his indifferent retinue. The Empress hesitated, and Isak asked, "Did you want to tell my wife something?" The woman was baptized guiltily. "No, nothing at all." Sighing, Vanessa saw her reaction and understood. "So what's the matter?" The girl decided not to arrange scandals. "Everything is fine." The dumbfounded Empress and the Duke looked at the Duchess. The Empress just congratulated us and wished us a long and happy life. The devil asked for disbelief. Did she wish us happiness? He slowly turned and took a couple of steps in her direction. Without saying anything, he brazenly put a finger on the Empress's lips, after which the man smiled and sat maliciously. Impossible. The Empress was surprised and blushed, asking, "Duke?" Vanessa looked at this unusual picture with misunderstanding. Suddenly, the devil looked at his wife and smiled sweetly. She answered him with a cold and indifferent look. A second later, the man jerked his finger, pushing the woman's head. Then the Duke turned and declared, "The celebration is over. Vanessa and I will go to the palace." He said his word. Looking at him, the girl thought puzzled. What was it? It looks like he was angry. Nest and Erkin escorted the girl. Suddenly, the Duke stopped and turned to his wife. He turned to her, while she looked inquiringly at her husband. "Meet me tonight in our bedroom." He smiled, then added, "I hope you are waiting for this moment." A couple of minutes later, Erkin announced, "The carriage arrived. The Duchess." "Can I call you a Duchess now?" Vanessa agreed. She asked, "His Highness will not go with us?" "He will follow us. The law of the Empire prohibits only the engaged to go together." "Exactly. They confess another religion, and here I am a conservative." She climbed into the carriage and sat in the seat, saying, "I apologize that I went away without telling you about it. I heard that His Highness has reported you for it. It's okay, it was our mistake. From now on we will be more attentive." "What are you carrying?" She left, not saying anything. Of course, she is to blame. Erkin looked at Note in displeasure, whispering, "Hush!" Vanessa grinned, hearing their friendly skirmish. She said, "No, I want to thank you that they brought me to the altar, instead of my father." He answered, "They ordered me. Do not thank. It was not so difficult." Erkin closed the carriage, sending it on the road to the palace. There was a clatter of hooves and brings the roar. A wedding night will come soon. By the way, the reason why the Empress behaved like that, I think this is due to the fact that she still likes Camille. Is that poison tea? The work of the Empress? In order to prevent our wedding and get the Duke? It is impossible. She is the Emperor's sister. Why does she hates me? Suddenly, she heard some irreplaceable noise outside the window. Interest still took his own, and she decided to look out the window. The first thing Vanessa noticed was a bunch of confetti. People screamed, "My God!" She opened the curtains. "Where?" "I also want to see." "It seems she, the Duchess. She is so beautiful. Glory to Her Highness, Duchess." For Victoria Camille, he is an invader. But for Alberic, he is a hero. "I never considered myself a patriot, but now I do not even know." "Duchess, soon we will come to the palace." We initially had to go there, but the Duke decided to stop in the main palace building. The maids bowed and said, "Welcome to you, the Duchess." Separately, only one woman greeted everyone. "Nice to meet you. I'm a maid of honor. My name is Trudy. I, as responsible for the farm in the palace, should show you it. However, first of all, you need to prepare for the first wedding night." Vanessa agreed, thinking, he says as if orders. These maids, probably, are already conducting such training for the 6th time, thinking that in the morning the Duchess will become a stray corpse. I am lied if I say that I am not at all worried. After all, I am also just the production of the devil. Vanessa left the bath. The maids began to wear it in the prepared nightie. Pulling a bow on her chest, the maid said, "Duchess, close your eyes." Despite this, more than fear, I feel awe. Having blindfolded Vanessa, the maids began to draw her to another room. However, they left her in the corridor. "Now we will leave you." Suddenly, the girl heard someone approached her. The Duchess raised her head, asking uncertainly, "Your Highness?" At the time when Vanessa was preparing, Isak was busy the same. The court servants made him massage, filamenting the body, while he got wet in the bathroom, preparing for the long-awaited night. He asked, "Why do you need this dreary preparation at all?" Baldur simply silently looked at him, without answering anything. It is necessary to fully adhere to wedding orders. Erkin would have become a notation, and this is generally zero reaction. The knight reacted only when he was called directly. "Now you will also accompany Vanessa." Baldur was silent. The Duke added, "But so that she does not know about it. Understood?" For several seconds, the knight was silent, discussing this subject. Realizing his task, he bowed low to his master. Isak thought, "Why was it so early for me?" The servants tried to dress the Duke in front of the wedding night. Opening the door, they said, "Your Highness, the Duchess awaits you." The man walked slowly along the corridor, looking for his wife. Turning around the corner, he froze, seeing a girl with blindfolded eyes. The Empire has a kind of tradition for the first wedding night. The bride with blindfolded eyes awaits the groom who takes her into the bedroom. Despite the fact that I see nothing, it seems that there is someone here. He goes in my direction. The stomp of legs became louder. Vanessa again turned to the owner of the steps. "Camel?" Without answering anything, the man smiled. Looking at the girl, the Duchess thought with interest, "Why isn't anyone answering me?" Suddenly, the Duke silently grabbed Vanessa by the hand and dragged somewhere. In the middle of an empty corridor, there was a loud cotton door. In the room, they were already waiting for a soft bed and all the amenities. Candles burned everywhere, dully illuminating the decoration of the bedroom. The Duke slowly leaned toward the face of a puzzled girl. They still held each other by the hand, without saying a word. Vanessa asked herself, what is he going to do? The devil silently touched the cheek and lips of the Duchess. From such actions, she blushed and embarrassed. A second later, he reached for her head, untied the knot. With a quiet rustle, the black bandage slowly fell to the floor. First, Vanessa blinked to get used to lighting. Then she looked in surprise at Isak's face. which was too close. The man did not take his eyes with a surprised girl, smiling. Then he walked away, asking, "Are you worried?" She answered, "Number, I was really waiting for this moment." The Duke said, "You do not need to be so calm." He carefully uncorked the bottle, pouring wine into glasses. Putting the glasses, he looked towards his wife. "So will you stand?" The man sat at the table, waiting for the girl. Walking awkwardly from foot to foot, Vanessa still sat down. Then a pause came. They silently looked at each other. The Duchess did not know who should be the first to start the conversation. She gave a voice. "Your Highness, about my nightmares." "Drinking wine," the Duke calmly answered. "Do not rush the event." He stretched pleasure, slowly right. "I already said. What I want to see your displeased, irritated face." He watched her incomprehensible face through the glass of the glass. Then the devil laid his head on his hand and said, "Tell me." "Not understanding the rules of the game," Vanessa clarified. "What to tell?" Isak answered. "Anything. I really like your voice." The girl said, "Once anything. Fine." She took the bottle. "I don't know how nice it will be for you to listen to it, but I will tell my story. Because of all degenerations, sometimes I forget who I really are. A lot of time has passed since I lost my peace of mind. And as you already know, what complicates my life most? This is life in two worlds, in reality and in nightmares. In the afternoon, I can concentrate and live a normal life, but as soon as I fall asleep, I drown in endless pain. And all this is repeated every day, as if the swamp sucks me. After that, Vanessa cried, drinking a little wine. The devil was pleasantly surprised. These emotions are very sweet. The Duchess did not restrain her tears without looking at the man. Suddenly, the Duke rose from his place, heading for his wife. The girl looked at the newly made husband in surprise. "You have become for me the one that becomes calmer for me." He approached the Duchess, stroking her cheek. Not wanting to wait more, Vanessa shouted, "Your Highness!" Smiling, the man answered, "Let's get down to business." He stood above her, holding his shoulders, and without saying anything. Vanessa did not know what could happen at any second. Will he do the same as last time in childhood? The Duchess remembered her first meeting with the devil. Having wrinkled, she restrained her tears while the devil kissed her forehead. Suddenly, a rainy and cold forest transferred her to the night. Vanessa stepped on her bare feet on a limp, wet earth. The pouring rain whipped her in the face, and nightie stuck to the body. Suddenly, the sky was illuminated by a bright flash, from which the girl jumped. Seeing a small wooden building in front of her, she asked, "Where am I?" Having acquired herself, Vanessa thought desperately, "How cold. To begin with, I will hide from the rain in that house." She opened the door. The room was almost empty. The girl went inside. Looking around and examined, the Duchess thought, "There is no one here?" Suddenly, something sharply attracted her attention to herself. Opposite her, lowering her head, a bound girl was sitting on the chair. She was all in the wounds and abrasions. Vanessa approached her. The Duchess knew exactly who was sitting in front of her now. A slightly remote from the Empire is a small kingdom. The most ordinary past life in which I had neither strength nor abilities. I was a very famous actress performing in the theater. Taking a bucket of water, someone decided to wake the girl. Not expecting such a sharp awakening, the actress coughed. An elderly lady asked, "Woke up?" The girl cried out, "Countess! Why are you doing this to me?" The woman snorted displeasedly. Then she answered, "Because you are a friend of Roa who will kill her." Roa, my old friend and the most devoted fan. She became the concubine of Count Kanoa, and thanks to her, I, being an unknown actress, was able to play the main role in the play. You are really a very talented actress. It depends on your ideas. There is a feeling that I am also the main character. You are very cool. ROA could not get enough of her friend's successes. We were the happiest when we spent time together. However, the Countess, who was shifted by ROA, out of jealousy, planned the murder, in which she was going to use me, her best friend. This is a dagger that you use tomorrow during the performance. The end of the dagger is lubricated with poison. Before the end of the performance, you must kill the ROA. The dumbfounded girl did not want to recognize reality, since if you kill it, it will be sad and most painful in the world. You are a bastard! Do you think I will kill Roa for you? Even if you threaten me, I will never kill her. The Countess answered, "Number, you have no other choice." She took a neatly connected strand of hair and threw it. "Looking at this," the actress said, "this is my mother's hair." The woman said, Right. The life of your mother is in my hands. Vanessa looked at the trembling past from the side. I can't look at it anymore. Suddenly, the devil approached her. The situation in which you must choose. The life of a girlfriend or mother? What could be more tragic? The man smiled, and then he asked maliciously, So did you still kill her? Calmly. From my indignation, nothing will change anyway, since this is already a living life. She answered, You will find out soon. The devil removed a smile from his face, watching the frozen girl. Vanessa tried to gather her thoughts, suppressing emotions. The day of the performance has come, the actress said. So the sun has already risen. The girl played out well. Even the time is not on my side. The Black Reaper is already ahead of me. She raised her hand up. The only thing I can choose. The girl looked nervously at her friend. If Roe does not die, then my mother will die. Roy smiled at her friend. At the same time, the countess sitting nearby threw evil eyes towards the blonde. And then the hour came when the actress was forced to get a knife. About this side of the pitch darkness, the audience carefully watched her. I was infinitely regretted. The girl sobbed on stage. If I could return at that moment of my life. Vanessa and the devil watched as the actress struck. I would make another choice. The face of the Duchess was darkened. The only thing I can choose is the side of pitch darkness. But I just can't afford to betray my girlfriend. The actress froze on the edge of the stage, and a poisoned knife in her hand. The countess thought, What are you, hesitation, and do not kill her? Once so, the woman said loudly. Take it off the scene, Lively. Going on stage. The elderly lady said. I suspected this. This girl attempted the life of the concubine of the count himself. What are you carrying? This is all you. She immediately closed her mouth with a gag. The actress in shock looked guilty into her friend's eyes. The dumbfounded Roa only said quietly, Impossible. Doesn't it seem to you that this is some kind of misunderstanding? I'm sorry, but it's true. We have evidence. Bring it. This is the same dagger that was directed at you during the performance. My servant saw how she plied the poison of a dagger. If I had not been adjusted, then at the end of the performance, she would pierce you. Roa could not believe her eyes and ears. Can't be. No. This is all a dirty lie. Please believe me. Row! The blonde trembled, either from fear or from the awareness of betrayal. The actress with a connected mouth tried to scream something inaudible. With a pleading look, she looked into the eyes of her friend approaching her. The actress was supposed to explain to Roa, but the gag prevented the speaking. Roa gave a voice. But I loved and appreciated you very much. But now I want you to burn in hell for a long time and painfully. The traitor. This word echoed in the head of the actress. The girl thought in despair, No, wait! Do not leave! I beg you! However, her friend left her, heading for the maids. The voice of the countess was heard from behind. Kill this girl. Tears filled the girl's eyes when she looked at the woman later. The countess looked at her in response with a ruthless look. The guards answered the order. Will be done, countess. Right on the stage, the soldiers made a sentence. Vanessa looked at her body lying in a pool of blood. An interesting picture. When you were a saint, on the contrary, everyone died of your hands. In this life, you were helpless, and you were so simply killed. It was insanely unfair that I had to die for nothing. Returning, for a long time I could not recover. I was worried about my mother, remembered my unsuccessful life of the actress, but the most painful was that Roa did not believe me. Crossing his arms over his chest, the devil heard Vanessa whimper. Sobbing, the girl thought, My heart is about to tear to pieces, despite the fact that a lot of time passed. It hurts as if it were yesterday. When will this pain take place? For what? What exactly is me for? The devil licked his lips. How sweet. This is aromatic despair. Of course, not as good as the first time, but still a pleasant dinner. Only I should be cheerful. Why is it so uneasy? I am gloriously saturated, but my mind is annoyed. Intelligence? The devil who should act instinctively thought about the mind. Unpleasant sensation. The man frowned, squinting the red eyes. Having straightened his wings, he thought, There is no need for this reasonableness. At that very moment, the Duke's lips began to let go of Vanessa's forehead. Suddenly, the girl cried loudly and desperately. He said, I warned. She answered, The head hurts very much. Stroking her head, the Duke said, Just be patient. The Duchess grabbed his hand, trembling. It hurts me very much. Suddenly, he hugged her. listening to the speeches of a trembling girl. Better kill me. If her past is the main dish, then the pain after what he saw is like a dessert. It is better to install everything as it is. But why do I want to help her? Vanessa continued. We agreed that you stop the pain, he answered uncertainly. This is true. Suddenly she hugged his neck. Well then, do at least something. There is one way that can stop the pain of Vanessa. Smiling, he asked maliciously. You definitely won't regret it? The Duchess looked at him with a mournful and imploring look. Having built a serious face, the man took his wife in his arms. Then they slowly headed towards the bed. The devil gently laid a ruptured girl on the bed. He opened a beautiful and fascinating look of an innocent girl. For several seconds, the man examined his wife. After that, he gently laid a finger on her lips. Close your eyes. The girl obeyed, after which they weaved in a kiss. Dawn came. The sun's rays looked out the windows. At this time, the devil and the immortal girl connected in a delicate kiss. Turning away from her, Isak felt her heavy breathing. The Duke smiled again and asked, Did you feel better? The reddened Duchess thought. The pain began to subside, but a little more. She pulled up her surprised husband to her. Completely save me from pain. Now she kissed him, the man without sniffing his eyes. She looked at the girl dumbfounded. The devil did not manage to figure out anything when suddenly something pushed him. It was Vanessa, which was now on top. Turning over, Vanessa did not break away from his lips for a second. The longer I live here, the less emotions I experience. But I even like it. After some time, she was still able to break away from him. The smiling Duke asked, Well, how are you better? She answered. A little, and she thought, I seem to have gone crazy. That's what it meant you definitely won't regret it? Sorry to be rude. He was not angry? She looked at her husband. I have no idea what he thinks about. He said. Yes, you were rude. The man lowered his gaze, thinking about something. Then he put his hand closer to his wife, saying, By the way, Vanessa, grabbing her by the waist, he asked, What did your hug mean? The dumbfounded Vanessa clarified, Do you have it for the first time? If you are talking about our relationship and kiss, then yes. I'm confused. I was sure that he already had experience. Suddenly, the Duke himself approached the neck of the shocked Vanessa. He began to kiss her. Is it normal that I am the first to have him? The girl felt pleasant sensations from the touch of the devil. It doesn't matter, because I also want him now. She succumbed to his spell. However, my partner is the devil. You can't be mistaken. The man raised his eyes in surprise when Vanessa called him. All that was between us means only good. This phrase was able to not surprise the insensitive creature. Suddenly, he took her hand and gently gave her a kiss. The surprised Duchess cried out, Your Highness! He broke away from her hand, smiled and looked into her eyes. Let's stop there, dear. I will not touch you anymore. I want to do everything for you that you would not wish. I think you have to invite your family. It would not be bad if you live with your family in the palace. The dumbfounded Duchess, stuttering, asked, Are you serious? Certainly. What do you think if your brother will study at the Palace Academy? I will personally write him a letter of recommendation. Vanessa froze. Recommendation from the Duke himself. She will help Sakaru. There is nothing better than training in the Empire, the Duchess said. Thank you very much, Your Highness. Was he really worried that I was longing for my family? You are so good-natured to me, I have no reason to refuse. My brother will also be very happy. She did not have time to finish. The devil turned his head and looked in surprise at his wife. Vanessa fell on the bed, her legs tight, and sniffed softly. Putting her hands near her face, she slept peacefully and carefree. The first wedding night was very heavy for my wife. He covered her and said, Good night and sweet dreams. As soon as I opened my eyes, the first thing I thought about how well I slept, morning without torment and nightmares. How long I have not experienced this feeling. Was it always so beautiful? The opportunity to sleep calmly and feel protected, as if in a warm embrace. Suddenly a voice was heard nearby. Good morning, my wife. Next to her lay the Duke. Vanessa cried out, Your Highness! And good morning to you. The man looked at her, smiling. Suddenly, a thought arose. Despite the fact that the devil is Camille, he brings me only happiness. It seems that if I am with him, I can withstand even a repeating life. Suddenly, the man kissed the girl from which she froze. She stared at her satisfied husband. You look at me as if you were asking you to kiss. Better tell me how the first wedding night do you like? I want to listen to your impressions. I don't know whether it will be correct if I put it like that. But it seemed like I was in paradise. The Duke was surprised at such words. Then he answered. And however, she expressed herself very boldly. For the first time I feel this, so I did not know how to say the best. One way or another, I'm glad that my wife was satisfied. Everything is exclusively thanks to you, my dear husband. Then Isak got up and declared, Get up soon, we will have breakfast. He put her at the table. Vanessa asked in shock, When did you manage? While you slept, I ordered to set the table. The Duchess thanked him. Planting, the Duke said. I know what is needed. But I still don't understand why people enjoy this food so. Devils do not eat human food? He answered. There is no need to have it. There are many suffering people in the world, so human food is indifferent to me. And if you want to feel a different taste, you can spend a day in bed with me. Vanessa was embarrassed. How he says so calmly about it. Since it went for that, what about the day to spend this day? But you have a lot of things. The Duke answered. I'm still a devil. I unleash wars and kill people. And I do not do the troubles of the Duke, and do not dig in politics. I am saying that these cases can be entrusted to my subordinates. Camille is known all over the world as a tyrant and killer. We must not forget about it. But even so, for me, Camille is the one to whom I can show myself real, and also my savior. But perhaps these are my selfish thoughts. By the way, I thought about it from the celebration on the occasion of victory. Among the rest, you stand out with your mind and self-confidence. If you were a man, you could become a valuable advisor. In the Empire, there are no people, he answered. I killed them all. They were noisy. They said that it is not necessary to oppress the states. Simply put, killed because they were too correct. Moreover, the face of the crown prince became so pale and appetizing, when almost his whole family was dying before his eyes. But the crown prince is just a small child. The future in which he is haunted by a man whom he considers his uncle. It becomes a reality. Poor. Vanessa turned to her husband. Could you be a little kinder in relation to the prince? Suddenly, the devil froze, gently grunted with a knife on a plate. The Duchess was frightened, seeing how the expression on her husband's face changes. The man asked a cold and frightening voice. Kinder? Are you worried about me for the crown prince now? The devil looked into Vanessa's eyes, expecting an answer from her. The girl was worried. I crossed the line with my request? Not at all. I meant that you are already full, thanks to me. I think there is no need to eat a crown prince. Wiping his mouth, Isak said, This is anxiety about him. Looks like you got attached to the prince? I have it or not, I will solve it myself. Vanessa answered detached. I understood. I'm sorry. Suddenly, the Duke loudly slapped his hand over the dining table. Then he turned sharply, and with a displeased look, headed for the exit. Sloping the door behind him, he left the Duchess alone. She remembered his words. I will do everything you wish. He recently said something else. Okay, now you have to think about yourself. And do not worry about someone else. We must stop thinking about the prince. And focus more on yourself. Yes, it will be better. The servants were whispering. The first wedding night is still overcome. It seems that he really values the Duchess. That's just, it seems, or the Duke is dissatisfied with something? Associated with the Duchess? Really already? Camille realized that they were discussing him. He sharply closed the book, thereby forcing them to shut up. He himself put his hand to his lips, thinking deeply. Sitting on an armchair and resting his legs on the table, he thought, I don't like it. Duchess, today you have a little loaded day. First, you need to consider 18 audience requests. And then, you have a tour of the Imperial Palace, according to your plan. Vanessa answered quite calmly. Okay, I understand. Erkin, who was watching her, thought. It does not seem to be worried. Of the 18 requests for the audience, most people. They wanted to meet because they were wondering how she survived. Girl 19 years old, short and with low social position. The vassals who came to meet the young Duchess. They imagined a good doll that can be controlled. However, after the conversation, they all were delighted and changed their minds. The duties of the Duchess are extensive and are not tied to a certain area. Politics and acute questions are no exception. However, nothing can change the origin of the Duchess. The difference in statuses is one of the difficult problems that did not go around their pair. After all, the authority of the Duke's wife is directly related to her social status. To put aside for a while, Vanessa sat down tiredly on the sofa. Almost half a day was spent only on the greeting of people. There was another, last item in my schedule. In a cold and not very pleasant voice, I started talking. I personally conduct a tour of the palace for Her Highness. She inquestedly announced an orderly in a tone. Follow me. Her name is her name? She again speaks with me in an orderly tone. Since there will be dinner soon, I will show you only the most important places. They went around almost the entire palace under the description of the maid. They also visited the library. This palace is so huge. Passing along the corridor, Vanessa looked in questioningly out the window. Then she asked Trudy, "What is this small building?" "This is a secret greenhouse of His Highness. The entrance is prohibited. Therefore, do not go there for anything." The woman seemed to threaten the Duchess. "I will take into account." And she thought, "What is it, since they are forbidden to enter?" The maid said, "This is the last thing I will show you today." The girl was in the hall filled with portraits. Trudy began to quickly explain the dumbfounded Vanessa. The hall in which statues and portraits of the Isakov family are collected, the story of which has several hundred years. Here, records of all Isaks have been preserved, starting with the ancestors. However, the Duchess stopped opposite the largest portrait. Portrait of Camilla. In the picture, he looked the same as living, but still there is a small difference in the portrait and the real Duke. Suddenly, something very much attracted Vanessa's attention. Portrait of women who are located next to him. Is all the dead duchesses? She began to read the description of everyone. Indeed, this is an important place where the story of the whole kind is reflected. But she clearly brought me here, hinting at my origin, to show me that I, by status, are below all the deceased duchess. Since you also have become a member of this family, then your portrait will be here. She definitely wants to humiliate me. However, Vanessa is not shy. We have already agreed with the artist. When will it be convenient for you to meet with him? The girl answered, "It is more convenient for me when people, speaking with me, look into my eyes." Trudy fell to her knees. "Forgive me if my behavior seemed rude." Vanessa was shattered by anger, but she tried to control herself. "Tolerate. Nothing good happens if I swear with her," Vanessa said. "If you are finished, then I'm leaving." The maids agreed. Trudy was the last who came out with a displeased look. His Highness asked to convey that he could not join dinner. Instead, he ordered me to personally take care of you. With a calm look, Vanessa answered, "Fine, go for now." The girl began eating and suddenly remembered something. She turned to Erkin. He did not respond. The Duchess said, "I want to ask you about something." For some time after dinner, Vanessa sat in her room. It turns out 3 years ago, Trudy was a nanny of the Crown Prince and part-time maid of honor. The girl studied old notes. Initially, she worked in the palace, and after retirement, she was going to her homeland. But suddenly, she was directed to work in the Duke's palace. Apparently, this is the work of the Empress. I sent a man here. Perhaps this may be somehow connected with the deaths of former Duchess. Vanessa thanked the knight. He answered, "Maybe you still need something? Make sure that Trudy information remained secret from the Duke. I do not want him to be worried." Erkin bowed. "I think Trudy will not leave me alone. Maybe remove it? Or lure her to your side?" "I'm still watching her." At this time, the young guys trained to fight on swords. The knight approached the Duke. "Your Highness, I apologize. But what are you doing?" He answered at ease. "I break the dragonfly wings," the soldier asked. "For what?" the devil said. "This is very exciting. Even this Bukashka instinctively fights for her life. I wonder what a person will do if he was in the place of a dragonfly." The subordinate answered in fright. "Clear!" And he thought, "I'm afraid of him." By the way, did the prince have already ended classes? The answer was, yes. Here he is, just running around. The prince slowed down the run when he saw his uncle. The man looked at the child, as if at a piece of juicy meat. He immediately remembered the recent request of his wife. The prince bowed and greeted the Duke with a trembling voice. Camel immediately answered, "It looks like you are carefully learning. Your riding skills have become much better." The boy was shocked. "Is it true? Thank you for notice this. And for what reason did you come to me so suddenly?" "The fact is that I just wanted to give you a gift," the surprised prince asked. "Present?" Uncle answered. "Yes, especially for you." At the same moment, the Duke handed the boy to the dragonfly, the very one that he recently broke all the wings. Seeing the reaction of the prince, the devil smiled and said, I hope you like it. But judging by your face expression, it seems that you are sorry for the bug. But should the future emperor be worried about such an insignificant death? According to logic, for the sake of the next generation, you need to sacrifice the cow. Is your uncle, fighting, not saved many starving people? The crown prince answered in a trembling voice. Yes, you are right. So you, prince, should learn to be easily treated with insignificant creatures. Such is the fate of all those who were born in the imperial family. The boy took the dragonfly and said, I understand you. Thanks for the instruction. I am always happy to help. He thought, I really like this taste. Therefore, I can never let this treat for anything. Suddenly, soldiers arrived. Your Highness, urgent news! They say that a large number of monsters appeared in the mountains. Can't be. Those monsters cannot destroy my pursuit. This is the work of the demon. Everything is complicated. After all, I cannot reveal my personality. Despite the dreary matter, you need to solve everything humanly. If we do not hurry, then even more residents of the estate will suffer. Yes, let's get on the road and call heavenly knights. Prince, I have an urgent business, so I will go. The boy again trembled. Take care of yourself, uncle. I will wait for the day you will instruct me again. Turning around, the duke headed for the next battle. In the end, he threw the prince only one phrase. As you know, as soon as his uncle left, the prince hastened to bury the dragonfly. Standing the pickdruck in a small grave, the boy read a prayer. While the boy was standing, folding together, then remembered something. Looking at his palms, he remembered the face of a good duchess. The boy thought about how such a kind woman married his uncle. The armed duke thought on horseback. If we go now, then I can't see Vanessa for several days, so even better. Some time will pass, and all incomprehensible feelings will subside. He ordered, Tell my wife that I'm on the departure. Vanessa was reported. His Highness will be absent for several days. The Duchess answered the soldier. Understood. He worshipped hastily. Walking around the room, the girl thought. He suddenly left. In recent days, we really did not even see him, somehow sad. Stop! What about me? Why do I think about it at all? Vanessa, embarrassed, crossed her arms over her chest and closed her eyes. At that moment, because of the column, in the far behind her, Trudy watched her. At this time, in the province of Rosent, in the estate of the Duke of Isak, chaos was happening. The Duke said, This place is still similar to the outback. He saw people who barely stood on their feet, and their bodies were covered with something green. Many were seriously injured or survived their last minutes. Without giving a look, the devil thought. A pleasant smell of blood. Huge but deserted land on the very outskirts of the empire. There are few people living here. Moreover, there is no sense in them. But these are still my possessions. And I don't like that someone has invaded here. I am the head of the province of Rosent. I welcome your highness. The Duke asked with a serious look. How many people were injured? I will not say for sure, but about 100 died and went missing. And the scale of material damage is several times larger. Protective posts are destroyed, but everyone who remained will fight with you. Please save our inhabitants, Isak thought. This is not my business. But I have not hunted monsters for a long time. I feel it will be fun. The man turned and ordered, All knights, get ready for the battle. Not all soldiers shared the joy and excitement of the master. As a result, the monsters were much larger and worse than everyone thought. One of the few surviving knights trembled, standing with a sword in their hands. The monster bulged his snake-green eyes on him. Unable to even move, the guy shouted. It should have been the last minutes of a soldier's life. But suddenly behind him, the Duke came out of nowhere. Having made a high jump, he waved a saber in front of the monster's head. With one strong and sharp movement, the head of the monster came off the body. The man looked smugly, smearing his face with green blood. The saved soldier screamed, thank you so much. Isak thought, why are there so many? 3 years ago there were half of them. They, it seems to me, even prepared for the offensive. Suddenly, one of the knights reported, We did everything as you said. The monsters became stronger, and they also began to recover faster. But is it not for heavenly knights that they are not the same? Okay, I'll deal with this. The soldier immediately answered, Fine. The devil wiped his face from the blood of the reptile. Then I thought, he stepped by the eye of a severed head and opened it. Who was it? What demon destroyed the curse I posed? Taking advantage of magic, he began to watch the past through the eyes of the monster. Earlier, lightning flashed over the province, opening the portal. Several dozen different monsters sank to the ground. However, a human figure with weapons in his hands slowly walked between the monsters. He gave the order, "Kill all the people who are here." Seeing the true culprit, the devil was not surprisingly surprised. It turned out to be the same demon aristocrat responsible for murders. A rather unexpected turn of events. He stepped away from his head. After a long time, a new king of demons appeared. "How annoying," the soldier reported. "Your Highness, we finished with those monsters." The Duke turned around, leaning his thoughts, answering, "We are moving on." A few days later, life in the palace walked its turn. 4 days have passed since the departure of His Highness. Time flew quickly. Since I was busy with Trudy and took on the duties of the mistress of the palace, slowly rubbing her neck, Vanessa sighed heavily. The young maid approached the girl. "Duchess, don't you want tea?" Smiling, Vanessa answered, "Yes, pour, please." After I took on these duties, I was surprised. The budget of the Duke's house is equivalent to the budget of the whole Victoria. I think I need to find a person who would help me. Suddenly, Vanessa turned to the maid. "Call you Paulette?" She nodded, answering, "Yes, the Duchess. She remembered my name. She seems to look smart. You need to check it." "Are you Zammy? Why the cost of an earlier for a garden is greater than that year?" The Empire brings marble from the colonial kingdom of Rozan. The price for it rose due to bad weather, when ships could not often walk. And also, recently there have been riots. Therefore, this time, it would be nice to have finances with a margin. "I think you will not have to change the budget." Vanessa thanked her. "Accurate," Paulette answered. "There is nothing." The Duchess was satisfied. At that moment, another maid entered the room. Trudy, as always with a displeased look, brought mail. "Duchess, you received invitations to celebrations. What to do with them?" "Celebrations. It seems the time has come to show yourself in secular circles. I do not want to take part in too big events. Therefore, take away from them several suitable for me. I recommend you 4 events to attend: the triumph of the Duchess of Arashi, the triumph of the Duchess of Patricia and Countess Canada, as well as the triumph of the Duchess of Leonardo. Have you decided to go to?" Vanessa looked thoughtfully at the maid, not knowing whether to believe her. Trudy added, "Choose the Duchess," the girl thought. Before the Duchess lay 4 envelopes with different seals. Vanessa carefully peered into everyone, not knowing what to do. Paulette, looking at the mistress, was worried. What will she choose? With a slow movement, the girl laid her hand on a letter with a blue seal. Suddenly, the Duchess gave a voice. "Paulette, what do you think?" The dumbfounded maid asked. "What do you mean?" "I say that I want you to help me with a choice." Smiling, the girl involuntarily got excited, looking at Trudy. Then she, stuttering, answered, "Let's see then." The Duchess of Arashi is a very authoritative person in a secular circle. The Duchess of Patricia is also in the center of the secular world. They represent 2 fractions. Closing closer to one, you lose relationships with the other. And Countess Karanita is a good friend of Mrs. Patricia. It turns out that the latter is the best option for the Duchess. "What do you think about the triumph of the Duchess of Leonardo?" Vanessa smiled at the maid, saying, "Then we will dwell on it." Stunned and displeased, Trudy wanted to object. The Duchess said, "Send a letter about my participation." Having no right to say anything against, the woman obeyed. Surprised, Paulette turned to the girl. Vanessa answered, "Don't worry. I was one opinion with you. I just decided to ask to make sure." In all secular circles, there is a hierarchy. It is easy to recognize. However, secular circles also call the battlefield of women. After all, this is not just a meeting place and chatter about anything. This is a field where women are fighting their connections, eloquence, and experience. If I, who first participating in this, would accept an invitation from the central person, that would be ridiculed for the fact that I do not know anything, since it comes from the fallen kingdom. Trudy knew very well about this and tried to boat me in a trap. She recently began to live in the Empire. How does she know about it? Vanessa turned to Paulette. "I hope that you will help me in the future." The embarrassed but contented maid was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, Trudy viciously threw a stand with letters. Other maids threw perplexed glances in her direction. The woman was literally thrown into anger and indignation. "A little earlier. Why didn't you give me grossbugs? I think that you need time to adapt to the Empire." "You should not worry. I know the imperial language as my own. Due to the fact that you behave like that, They do not perceive me as a duchess. What a fuck! What does she know? I don't want to admit it. She seemed to know that tea was poisoned and did not even touch him. She really is not the same as all the other duchess. Trudy turned out to be displeased, trying to come up with something else. She looked at the golden key. As a result, I have no choice left. In one of the corridors, one pair of heels was heard. The joyful Pale was with a tray in her hands, recalling the words of the lady. Thank you. In the future, I hope for your help. She is very wise and good-natured. I've been working in this too for a year, and she was always unhappy. But now I even like this work. This is exactly how I imagined the life of a maid. Suddenly, the girl was distracted by a familiar and unpleasant voice. Turning around, Pale recognized Trudy, answering, Yes, madame.